I always believe that application developers and application development team is actually the key to success for the business of the organization. Because guys, these app developers put lots of effort to create those applications for us, which we use in day-to-day life at our workspace, as well as sometimes they also have to create cross-platforms applications as well, which require lots of time, patience, failures, then success. And I think most of app developers already aware about that. So first, before to move forward, kudos to all app developers, and guys, I have a great respect for you. So now let's move forward. As an example, right now I'm using Microsoft OneNote application. You know that Microsoft OneNote application is coming from the Microsoft organization who is already specializes in Microsoft platform. So they build an application for Microsoft platform, which is absolutely fine. But you also know that Microsoft OneNote is also there for Mac platform. So guys, to develop and to create application for Mac platform, what Microsoft developers has to do, they have to have a proper environment to try to create, build that application on a Mac environment. So they need a separate operating system where they have installed Mac operating system. They have a proper toolkit on which they can try, test it, those applications which they like to create for the platform, right? So as an example, if you have a Microsoft platform, all right, and you like to create an application for Microsoft and Mac operating system, what do you think? Is it possible to achieve that you can develop both these applications on Microsoft platform? The answer is no. You cannot develop both of these applications on a single platform or a specific platform. Why? Because guys, to run an application on Microsoft platform, you need a different kind of dependencies which you need to analyze and obviously need to understand the architecture of the operating systems as well. Similarly, if you talk about the Mac operating system, you need to first understand the software architecture. You need to understand the operating system architecture and obviously the dependencies which are required to run your application on that platform. And accordingly, you start building your applications. So point here to mention, you cannot do two different app development on a single operating system because they always have conflicts. Sometimes they create trouble, even though when you have to create two different applications for, let's say, the same platform, the application development team required a different operating system where they can test application number one, and for different application number two, they need a different or separate operating system. In Microsoft Azure, guys, we have the solution. We can use Microsoft Azure Compute Service and we can simply create a new virtual machine, right? Where people can start deploying their application. They can develop their application. They can test. They can do whatever they want on that particular application for that application number one. And for application number two, we can simply create a new virtual machine based on the different platform. Let's say if they like to create or develop an application for Linux platform and they need a Linux platform in a Microsoft Azure, you can simply do that by creating a new virtual machine and install any Linux flavor that you need to deploy or develop your application. So that's how we are providing solutions to these all app developers till date. But guys, now a new kind of, it's not a toolkit, I must say, but it's a kind of way you can start even enhance app development. And obviously it's a great way for any of the app development team in any organization that they can now build and create their solution pretty quickly and obviously seamlessly. Let me help you to understand a little bit more about this. Hello guys, my name is Harshangna, and in this video we are going to talk about a little bit more understanding on Azure Containers, because this is a new thing in Microsoft Azure and obviously in cloud computing, because it doesn't matter whether you are using Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud. they all have this deployment side that they can use Docker, they can use containers to deploy their solution pretty quickly. And obviously I can tell you how it is much better than deploy your solution on a virtual machine and now how actually it helps to kind of increase the better feasibility to deploy your applications. We will talk about that in a minute. But to understand Azure Container, what that is and how actually it helps app developer or us to deploy these things, let me tell you with this example. As I said, if you need to create two different applications, application number 1, application number 2, the desired way right now in general that you can simply create two different virtual machines for two different applications. Why? Because these two different applications have completely different dependencies, which definitely can have a conflicts if you install both on the same operating system or on the same virtual machine. But by using containers, what you can do, you have a single operating system and you can you can deploy both application number 1 and application number 2 on a single operating system without any issue. So it's kind of you are using a software virtualization instead of hardware virtualization, which we are actually creating virtual machine using that. So I will talk about that a little bit later in an example, so you will understand even better. So right now we don't need to deploy multiple virtual machine, because if you deploy multiple virtual machine, you need to also maintain those two different virtual machine as an example. But in containers, you have only one virtual machine and you can deploy multiple applications on that particular virtual machine. So don't worry, I will talk about it later and I will show you with an example how you can use containers to create those applications quickly as well. The next one we have is the little bit later step, or you can say a little bit advanced level step in containers. We call it microservices. So guys, if you just try to gather more understanding on this concept, you will hear the word called Microservices Architecture, which is a great way. And actually, I must say, as an administrator, it is for me is very, very much easy to maintain different kind of server. For example, if I have a web server, obviously all these web server have a front-end server, back-end server, and of course required a storage and all other kind of maybe toolkit is there. So I have multiple different kind of phases to build a proper different web server, right? So to combine these all services, you can create one web server. But let's say there's some problem in the front-end server. So generally, if I deploy this solution on one specific application, so what it does, if any problem in the front-end server, whole back-end storage, all has been affected because my web server is not going to work at that particular time. So to solve that problem, the microservices comes into the picture. That architecture help us to break down that front-end server, back-end server, storage, all that into different containers, and you can maintain them separately. You can scale up them separately, independently. So it's really a great way to deploy the large amount of servers, or at least I'm talking about the app development here in terms of specifically deployment kit. So this is really a very great way to maintain these different things all together. And obviously, I cannot express right now that what exactly the difference is between microservices architecture and containers. So don't worry guys, let's move forward and let me give you, because I create one particular picture which will really gonna help you that how you need to understand about this microservices architecture and containers. What are containers first, and then you will go to the microservices architecture, which will be very much helpful. And once we have a clear understanding on the concepts, we will also move to the Microsoft Azure Container deployment in today's video, because here I can show you that how this container actually works and how actually use them into deploy your websites or any other solution, because lots of containers, lots of applications are already available for us. So guys, let's move forward and try to understand more about containers. And for those who already confused that what exactly Azure Containers and what is microservices architecture, Don't worry guys, I got you covered. I will explain you and I will tell you in step-by-step understanding guidelines. So stay there with me. Let's move forward. So let's talk about containers in Azure in this particular part. So guys, before to move forward, I would like to tell you that first we need to understand this picture. If you understand this picture, that means you're very much clear about the container, because it can give you a very clear understanding that what exactly the containers are and how you can use them to deploy your resources in your infrastructure. So to move forward, and because after that I will explain this written format here, but before that we need to understand the architecture. If you understand the architecture, we understand everything about container. So let's talk about the first thing in this picture, that we have some hardware resources. So guys, these hardware resources are on Microsoft Azure, where we have CPU, you have RAMs, you have GPUs, you have storages. So once we combine this, it just become an infrastructure in Azure, right? So right now our infrastructure is ready. Now, how we can virtualize this infrastructure to create our different virtual machines? We have Hypervisor tool. So this Hypervisor I'm talking about here, Hyper-V. It could be an OS level hypervisor. Let's say if you like, even for my practice environment on this desktop, I have installed Hyper-V component installed on my Windows Server 2016 or 19, and I can create multiple virtual machine inside that hardware as well. So basically the purpose of Hypervisor is to use the virtualized power of these different hardware components, and based on that you can utilize them and create a new virtual machine. So by using this Hypervisor, now the requirement is we have to create virtual machine, because this is one of the solution which we are giving right now to application developer, and it is absolutely fine. There's no problem on that. So what we are doing is this application developer is like to create one application and two application. So based on that, we have created two separate virtual machine. All right. So as an understanding of this example, there are two applications. One need to create for Windows platform. One need to create for Linux platform. That's how after you install a hypervisor, we already have, you create two virtual machine. So in this virtual machine, you have installed an operating system called Windows operating system. And on another virtual machine, you have installed Linux operating system. So right now, two virtual machine, two different kind of application development we want based on different application. So right now, as an example, I like to create a Python kind of development kit. I have that thing, and I like to create an application based on Python as an example. So definitely I can create this in Windows operating system. There's no problem. But if you like to create an let's say .NET application with Python on Windows operating system, there might be conflict. And that is why you actually create a new operating system, which is obviously Linux based, and you like to create a .NET application which runs on Linux operating system. So which is absolutely fine. So what you have done here, you actually divide one development with one operating system, another development with another operating system. For what? To avoid any conflict in between these two different development. Because if we create this .NET development as well, or .NET application as well on this Windows operating system, then there are definitely will be some conflict, because as I mentioned, there are some dependencies, and sometimes these dependencies conflict each other. So to avoid that, we separate this operating system, and which is absolutely fine. There is no problem on that. All right. Whereas if you need to understand the container, it worked similar way, but in a different way. So what does it mean? We have a same virtualized architecture. Obviously, we have CPU, GPU, RAM, storage, everything. Now, what Microsoft has done, they have simply installed a custom operating system. As an example, Ubuntu here. It doesn't matter, you can install Windows operating system. It's all fine. Then you actually bundled all these applications. For example, you create this application, Python application, okay? Now you make a bundle of this Python application, and you make a bundle called P1 as an example. Now, whenever you like to create further app development, you don't need to create a new virtual machine in container. This is become a part of a container. Now you need to simply deploy this container on that operating system, that single operating system. Your Python development starts working fine without any issue. Similarly, you have another application .NET, which is right here. So obviously you create a .NET, which is, I create a N1, which is a .NET here. So .NET here application you like to run and you like to develop those applications straight on a same operating system, then guys, you need to deploy another container for that. So that container and the Python container does not have any connectivity whatsoever. So the point is they will not communicate with each other and they are completely separated from each other too. And another advantage, obviously this Python has its own dependency bundled in this container, and .NET application has their own dependencies bundled in this application. And that is why when you run this application on the same operating system, it does not relate that on which operating system it does it install. It doesn't matter. You can install this bundled container on any of the operating system with you. The another thing is I give third example, Java. Like if you like to create a Java application or you like to develop any Java application, simply you can create a kind of container for that, and where it has all sort of required components, all sort of dependencies installed, configured component, everything in that container or bundled. And after that, you simply deploy that bundled, and that to be all. With the small modification, you can simply start deploying your application without any issue. So guys, point here to mention, here what we are doing a software virtualization. And here we are actually using a hardware virtualization, because what we have done, we have actually virtualized hardware. We are creating multiple operating system, whereas on container, we do not install multiple operating system. We only have one operating system right here, which is Ubuntu at the moment. And we simply deploy different containers as a bundled on the same operating system, Python, .NET, Java. All these bundled containers can be installed and configured on the same operating system, and that's how I call word software virtualization. So again, you might have a question, what about the conflicts? Guys, as I mentioned again, just to avoid your confusion, these bundled containers do not have directly connection in any way on the same operating system, which means if you're trying to deploy or develop a Python application, you can simply do that, go into this particular container. If you have a application with a .NET, you can simply go to .NET application and start develop your application too. Similarly, you can do with the Java applications as well. So that's how the beauty of the containers are. And obviously, to understand a little bit more, now let's jump back to the written format and I will explain you a little bit more about this. But I think you are very much clear here, right? That what is the difference between containers and normal, whatever the approach we have nowadays to develop our applications. So in the format, guys, first we need to understand that as a part of the definition, deploy containers on a Microsoft Azure public cloud without having to provision, because obviously these virtual machines deployed and they provision, we need to wait for until these virtual machines are running. After they are running, we need to install the components, we need to start building application. Till then, means till this step, operating system step, we need to wait, right? We need to wait till then. But in containers, you don't need to wait on anything. Simply take the container, deploy on the operating system, done. That's it. Your container starts working and you can start develop your application straight from their way. And that's how you can manage your infrastructure pretty easily. The second point I mentioned here is the OS virtualization. So guys, that's what I mentioned. OS virtualization is all about like you are just simply using these containers on the same operating system. You don't need to create a new operating system to deploy or develop any of the application on the particular platform. All right. So now let's talk about some of the key points which you go through the lots of different documentation. These are the key points you need to keep in your mind to understand about the containers. The first, flexible. How it comes in the flexible manner, because as you can see here, if you like to deploy, you need to deploy the whole virtual machine in terms of, start deploying the new the application development when you use a virtual machine. But in containers part, you simply need to deploy the, containers directly, and you don't need to worry about the virtual machine. Everything runs on that one. You can start development straight away. And obviously, if you don't want it, you can remove container from this operating system. And what it does, whatever the development you have done on this application, it will be saved in a bundled application, and later on you can take this P1 to another virtual machine where you like to deploy, and whatever you have left you can start working on that particular development area. So pretty flexible in general. More efficient, obviously. Why it is efficient? Because it's all about the hardware level, because here you have to first create a virtual machine, then you need to wait for this to provision, then you need to install the operating system. After your operating system is ready, then you start develop your application. I know in Microsoft Azure, installing the operating system or create the virtual machine, it's a very minute step, but still guys, containers are much more efficient as compared to virtual machine if you deploy your solutions in that scenario. So I hope you get my point here. So obviously no more VM provisioning required. Simply take your containers, deploy on the operating system, and job done. That's it. So yeah, significant faster. Obviously, just like I mentioned on the hardware level, that if you like to choose the virtual machine to start deploying your application, obviously you have to do first, you have to create your virtual machine and then start installing your operating system, and finally begin with your application development or deployment. Similarly, on the other hand, in containers, you don't need to do these all steps. That's how the execution of containers are pretty much faster than creating a virtual machine, start deploying your solutions. And yeah, this is another great advantage, guys. I would like to mention no maintenance. What does it mean? Now, obviously, I am currently using only 2 virtual machines here as an example because I have 2 applications, right? So if you like to manage them, if you like to maintain those different virtual machine, so you have to take care of 2 different virtual machine. Whereas on the container, you just need to take care of only one operating system or only one virtual machine. And there you can install 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 containers. How many you want, you can install that. These applications, these containers may be big, may be small. It depends on the situation. It depends on the application. And obviously, you know that we are already running, these on Azure. So you can increase, scaled up your hardware resources. You can scale down your hardware resources. It's pretty easy, guys. And I think it would be really a nice way to start deploying our, containers instead of the virtual machine. But to avoid any confusion, whether we cannot deploy virtual machine or not, no, that's not a question here. Which one is better? Because if you just open the Microsoft Web, not Microsoft Web, overall web, and you can try to find out which solution is better, deploying the virtual machine or deploying the containers. Guys, is a big question, and lots of people again fight over it. That some people said virtual machine is better because it can avoid lots of potential issue and they can manage them separately. They can remove them, remove them, add them separately. It's like different preferences, different utilization, different organization need. Whereas on the container, these are also doing the same thing, which we are trying to achieve by creating different virtual machine. So again, I'm not here to tell you and not here to judge that which solution is better, but certainly containers are much more flexible, faster, efficient, and with low maintenance required in terms of when we have to manage our virtual machine, right? So I think you understand now what containers are and how actually we can think about to deploy these containers. And don't worry, when I show you the practical, you will be very much clear that how we can use this container, how we can deploy them in Microsoft Azure. So guys, let's now understand more about microservices first, microservices architecture. Then we will move forward with the practical. All right, so let's try to understand microservice architecture first before to go to hands-on lab on containers. And guys, I read lots of different articles and I found just in one line, I break that all steps and information in one line. That is breaking application into smaller pieces. Means when you talk about containers, you're breaking those container into smaller pieces. And to understand this, I make this picture and it will give you better understanding and very much clear understanding that what exactly the microservice architecture are. And one thing I would like to tell you about this, guys, you will heard microservice architecture a lot, especially when you are trying to manage app services in Microsoft Azure. So you should be aware that what that is and how actually it is maintained in Microsoft Azure infrastructure or environment. So right now, as an example, you can see that I create a picture. And when we talk about Microsoft architecture, this line, this dotted line, this box, the bigger box is actually a container. Okay. In this container, what I have done or what we can do using microservice architecture, we can break this container into multiple pieces. As an example, front end, back end, and storage. Actually, I take here as an example of web services, which means I have a web server, and in that web server, I have a front end server. In that web server, I have a backend server, and I have a storage server. Right? So basically, if I break this into three parts, it will be easy for me to maintain all these three different further components involved. For example, front end, who is actually taking requests from the consumers and they are trying to verify their all sort of commitments, all sort of request, and then request sent back to backend to get the information what the customers or consumer is looking for. So if there's any problem happen to the front end, we have a dedicated team who can handle this front end, and if there's any problem, they can simply fix it on the front end. They don't need to touch backend or storage level issue, because if we are just managing our container, means we are trying to implement that solution only on the container, and accordingly you have to take care of backend. You have to double confirm on the backend because they all are combined in a container, right? But with the microservices, you are splitting them up, means you are still managing those specific roles or these kind of different components separately, and it comes up with lots of different advantages like managing, scaled up, maintained, update. You can do all that stuff with that specific microservice, which is right now front end. Similarly, if a dev team like to add something or modify something, they can directly do it to the back end. They don't need to worry about the front end, what exactly they have to do, because front end is already running and it has been already maintained by a web app team. So dev team can talk to web app team and they will help them to fix the issue. Similarly goes to storage as well. So if a customer is trying to reach to that website, first it goes to the API gateway, because obviously this microservice architecture need to develop or deployed with the help of API gateway. Right now we are not going to talk about that later, but in upcoming videos I will try to break it down what is API gateway. And based on requirement, let's say this client said, hey, I need just a storage access as an example. So it directly take to the storage. It do not need to go to front end, back end, and then storage, because this API has already information about all the clients. This is just an example. Obviously, if somebody like to access your website, it has to go to front end, then go to back end, and then storage, right? So this is the step. So if anything goes wrong into front end or back end, specifically we need to focus on that component and fix it in no time. We can have all advantage, because we don't need to worry about, hey, what's the problem in front end? No, we don't need to check that. We already break down that back end has issue, we need to fix it. So yeah, lots of advantages comes with the microservice architecture, guys. And that's how I mentioned and already share with you that microservice architecture allows you to scale up. Means if any resources is feeling down for the front end, we can simply scale up only and only to the front end. You don't need to increase to the back end because it already have enough resources. It does not require so much, as an example. So similarly, you maintain. Obviously, if anything goes wrong, you can simply focus on one specific component or a specific microservice, and once you resolve that, everything is resolved straight inside that same one. Similarly, you can also maintain the updates, and obviously you can manage these updates all front end, back end, storage separately. So again, another advantage is that we can manage them independently. So that's all about microservice architecture. How much you read, how much you go through the article, it's all about this. You are just separating them or kind of breaking those applications into smaller pieces to maintain them. Now, how it gives you advantage on a conclusion, because you can manage them separately, you can update them, you can maintain them, and if required, you can scale them up and down based on requirement. And as I said, these microservices can be handled separately. That's the advantage of using microservice architecture. The next one, guys, there are two words you can certainly hear all the time when you talk about containers. The first is Azure Container instances. So basically, Azure Container instances is a place where you deploy your instances, means your containers. Meaning is Microsoft has actually already, they already have an operating system installed, which we already not sure which operating system they are talking about. I believe they are using some kind of custom OS for sure, custom OS Linux, I believe. So in this custom Linux OS, basically they have created Azure Container instances. Means we can start simply deploy our application on these container instances straight whenever we want. Doesn't matter it's a big container, small container, but we don't need to care about this because we are not aware that which operating system they are using. But yes, Azure Container Instances is a place where you can deploy your containers, and I will show you in the practical as well. The next one we have is Azure Kubernetes. Some people say Kubernetes, some people say Kubernetes. It depends on pronunciation. So in Kubernetes service or Kubernetes services is basically you are managing, let's say this is only one container. Similarly, you have many containers right in front of you, and you break them already down into microservices. And you like to understand that this front end should communicate with this backend, and this backend should communicate with another container backend. Similar, just a connection, just a communication, understanding using APIs. So to manage all of these containers, microservices or containers, you can use Azure Kubernetes services. That's only one line for you right now, but obviously in upcoming time we do have practice on Kubernetes. I will show you, but right now just think about Kubernetes is a place or a service which will allow you to manage all microservices architecture running on a specific container or multiple containers combined. All right. So it really helps because Kubernetes actually helps on the orchestration. Orchestration means it tells to containers that, okay, this microservice has to communicate with this one. And it asks on the specific required microservice architecture board that, hey, this front end is available to communicate with this one. If not, please add this API. If already there, just directly make a connection from this container to that container. So this kind of orchestration is actually managed by this Kubernetes services. That's it. So lots of theory, lots of concept, lots of understanding. But I hope I try to help you to, in an easy way so that you can have a better understanding on these concepts. Now, if you already understand, so guys, let's move forward and try to do our practical. Now let's begin with the deployment of the container in Microsoft Azure. Just to moving forward, I would like to tell you a few words which you need to keep in your mind before to start deploying your containers in Microsoft Azure. Number one, you have to keep remember Azure Container instances, which I have already discussed. The name is ACI, which means the place where you actually deployed your containers. Remember that thing, because right now we are going to start with the Azure Container instances where you can start deploying your container, and I will show you how you can use them right after that. The second thing you have to keep in your mind is container registries. Guys, container registries is a place where you can put your custom images of the containers and you can store in Microsoft Azure space as well. Because obviously if you have an image from Docker website or a few other website, your image is saved in there, you can also use them. Let me try to show you a little bit more information, then we will move forward with the deployment. So if I go to the Azure Container Registry website from Microsoft, once you scroll down, you can find out here that store your container images and beyond, which means that these are the place, these are the organization. If you have saved your images or container images, you can use them and you can directly deploy all of these images right straight in Microsoft Azure. I will also show you from where you can find out the option to choose this Docker and few other images. You can use them and you can start deploying them. But there's a last thing I would like to tell you, that the most common platform and the famous platform is Docker. Although it is paid for some users, but if you have any image, let's say you have created a website and you would like to put that image straight in the Docker, you can do that, and later you can run that particular thing as a container. So that's an advantage, and obviously I would recommend that if you have a Docker, you can keep using it. Otherwise, if you don't have Docker and you already have a Microsoft Azure subscription, then obviously I would suggest you to save your custom these images or bundled of these application containers straight in the container registry. Because in today's example, I'm also going to create a custom image as well, which I'm going to deploy just to show you that how you can make your own custom web application, which is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. And obviously I'm not an expert on the developer level, so you can expect a little bit small changes from my side, but at least I can show you that how you can use and create those custom images to use in Microsoft Azure. So now let's go back to Azure portal. And here we are going to start deploying our container first. Believe me guys, this is one of the very easiest, very easy step to just create your containers and deploy these web applications straight, or any kind of images which you have already deployed straight in Microsoft Azure Container. So what to do, you need to search for container. Obviously, you can find out few of others like app services, because that app services are next. But at the moment, you need to care about only these two: container instances and container registries. So let's begin with container instances. So click on this. Obviously, I do not have any instance created at the moment. So obviously, to begin with, we are going to click on add. And as I said, the process is very simple. You can find out similar like your virtual machine, but even more than simpler. So here, obviously, the first step is you need to choose the correct subscription. The second step is either you can choose the existing resource group or you can create a new one. So I'm going to create a new one for this practice. So I give Con Hirsch Arena because it can give me a better understanding. So Con Container Hirsch Arena. So click OK. So I'm going to create a new resource group. You can give any name of the container. So obviously try to give it a small name. Hirsch Arena Prect. I'll give this name. You can give any name you like. And obviously the place where you like to store this container. So I'm going to choose East US2 because it has all the features. Now guys, this is the important place. First, quick start images means if you like to learn, if you like to understand that how your container is working, then obviously you can choose quick start. And here there are some images you can choose from. So we have Microsoft ACI Hello World, like normal website, you remember, just follow the Hello World in the web page. So that's first. Second thing is Nginx, obviously engine inks, whatever the name, like, simple Linux web server, you can deploy that. The third one is IIS nano server. Obviously for this practice, I'm going to choose a Linux one because I would like to tell you, it doesn't matter whether you are choosing Windows or Linux containers or container images, it's going to deploy same way on Microsoft Azure Container instances. And right now, I think the size is more than enough for me at the moment. So I'm going to choose the same Microsoft/ACI-Hello World. Obviously, it's a Linux container. So next step is obviously the networking. Here you can assign that which particular port you would like to communicate. Either right now you can follow the AD number port, which is by default, or you can also change to 443. It's all up to you and requirement. The another thing is, for the website point of view, you can even give any name. Let's say Harsh Arena Pract. So I will give this name. So right now my website name will be, after this, harsharena.eastus2.azurecontainer.io. Because if you like to access this container, you can access, and you would like to check that how your web application has been deployed, you can choose and review from this particular place. All right, so that's been done. So with that, I think for advanced and tags, I think don't need to mention, you're already aware. For advanced right now, leave it. Now go to review and create. So once the validation passed, I will just click on create. So guys, you will see that how much fast this container can be created after just choosing that particular web application or whatever the application or image we have chosen for this practice. I click create. Now, I'm not going to pause this video either. I'm going to just better discuss a little bit more about this, that how much convenient this is. And if you like to think about the deployment, in my practices before, it just completed within 1 minute 45 seconds. It won't take much time. And you can imagine the scenario that if you have any web application, or let's say you have deployed a website, you have added all different changes into the images, and you make a bundle or you make a container out of that final deployment after develop your application. Now, if any for any reason that website is down, what you have to do, you simply need to put that container. All right, your deployment is completed. So even less than 1 minute it took, and my web application is running. And I will show you how you can find out more information on that. But before that, let me complete my explanation. So my point is to mention that if you have already deployed your web application with all the modification, guys, so if anything goes wrong to that application, what you need to do, you need to simply deploy this container, and just imagine within 1 minute, your web server is back to normal and you are able to access your website, whatever the, web application serves to, whatever the responsibility of that application, you can easily able to access within 1 minute. So this is really cool to me, at least, to manage our resources and manage our different kind of accessibility on Microsoft Azure. Or I'm specifically talking about the applications in container, and you can use any kind of language, the computer language, to create your images, and you can simply deploy in the containers. However, our container has been ready. So let's go to resource, and now it can show us that our container is ready. This is the icon, and here is the whole detail, whether your container is running or not. Obviously, if you need more information, obviously you can click on containers. Here you can find out your container is running with this information, and here are the events, properties if you like to check more details, the logs, connect if you like to connect with the virtual way. Obviously you can connect, but right now I don't want to do that because I will leave some of the practices for for later part. So yeah, these are the just information. If you like to see, if you like to review them, you can go through it. You can certainly access your website using IP address and of course the FQDN. So to see whether it works or not, what we can do, we can simply open another browser at the moment. So obviously I'm using Firefox. So to see whether our website is working, I'm just going to copy the IP address here and go back to the another browser as an example and type HTTP because we have this one, and type obviously the IP address of the container which we have just deployed. Press enter. So there you go, guys. So this is your website which we have actually chosen from the image as an example. And obviously if you like to access this website using this FQDN, you can also do that. So to achieve that, simply go to that place, copy the FQDN and press enter. After that, it will automatically upload or load the same page, not upload, load the same page, which means that it has been successfully deployed with no issues. So I believe, guys, it is really very easy and it is very much impactful in terms of deploying any container. So we have completed and we have covered that how you can actually deploy your container. Now let me take you back and show you that how you can actually start building your custom images within Microsoft Azure, and you can save those images in Azure Registry, or I mean Container Registry, and I can also show you how you can use them for later purposes or to create an image or a new container within container instances. So to achieve that, guys, what we have to do, we are going to follow this time the Azure Cloud Shell. So obviously I can tell you this Cloud Shell is also a container. Have you ever imagined that this Azure Shell is also a container? Because it's if I take you as an example to the Linux Bash, let me show you something. Maybe I can try to explain something there. So give me a moment, let it just authenticate and load all of this PowerShell or Bash. So let me, yeah, it's already been done. Oh, I'm sorry. I have no idea where it goes. So let me just, okay, make it up and back. So right now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just change to Bash and just confirm, because as an example, I would like to show you that we click on Azure Shell and you believe, how this thing is working and how it is showing the PowerShell or the Bash. Actually, what developers has done here, they actually combined all sort of commands, all sort of information within this PowerShell and Bash place, and obviously whatever the commands we are going to run, it's been recognized, which has been already put in this container. Let me show you something. If I type uname A, and you can find out that this shell or you can say Linux shell is based on Ubuntu operating system. So now you better understand that actually Microsoft has created this as a container, and when we click on Azure Cloud Shell, it actually recognizes as a container and it allows us to deploy our resources, correct? So yeah, just want to show you for your information that to avoid your confusion, that even in Microsoft Azure, few of the services are running as a container, and you should be aware about it. You should know that. So guys, basically to create our custom images, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use one of the basic container which we already had. Now we just deployed, right? You remember we just deployed one of the practice which we call Harsh Arena Pract, right? So we have seen that the website run with the normal container. Let me take you back just for your review. So this is our website. So here I'm going to change something from this image and I customize it from my way. And obviously, if you are a developer, you can do it many things. You can do wonders within these applications, and you can make your own container registry, and that you can deploy straight in Microsoft Azure. So let me show you. To achieve that, basically what we have to do, we have to follow some commands. And guys, I'm going to upload the document for you in the download space. You can simply follow them and it will help. It will be helpful for you how you can actually move forward with the deployment of the custom container images and save it into the container registries. So right now I'm going to choose the correct subscription, and I won't, because this is my main subscription which I'm using for all my practices. So that's how I'm copying paste these all commands. But don't worry, I will show you these commands once again. Once I explain, and obviously you can download these commands or this document from the download link from the description. So obviously what I have done here, I just choose the correct subscription which I want to use, and I set the AZ context so that whatever I'm going to deploy, it should be follow the same way in the subscription. So guys, the next command I have is it starts from Git Clone. So basically git space clone, and whatever the link is, github.com/Azure Azure-samples and ACI helloworld.git, because if you go to this link, github.com/Azure-samples, you can find out a couple of more images are available. So if you like to customize, I'm going to choose this one as for my customization. So what I'm doing it right now, I'm making a clone of this one. Okay, this image. So when I press enter, so basically what it does, it just kind of clone of this image to my directory. And if you like to see about this information, just type ls or dir, it's all up to you. And you can find out that one of the directory has been created here, as you can see with the name of ACI-hello world. So basically, if I go inside this, and you have to go inside this particular application, we believe it's a directory, but it is a kind of application. Don't worry, I will show you. Now we are inside this, right? So just to show more information, I press ls and you can find out first is app, Docker file, license, readme.md. Last two, license and readme.md, you can simply avoid that. We need to focus more on app. So guys, now this is the app which has been by default cloned from this particular sample. Now obviously just to show you that how it works and how we can use these customize these images. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to customize this application, and I put my my own particular logo and make some changes into the website, so that once we try to redeploy this custom image, you will see that how our web application looks like and how you can use this customized image to deploy the container. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to obviously, you can simply type code dot, or if you don't want to type code dot, because it allows us to check what exactly inside these application and what code has been written. Otherwise you can click here as well, open editor. So both are same thing. So as soon as I press enter, it just opened the code. All right. So currently, as you can see, it is some of the information written inside this directory is here. So to modify the information which we like to practice, you have to go to app. The very first is index.html. All right. So basically, you are very much aware that if you like to deploy the web application or the website, all these application actually came back to index.html to review and read all of the information. So exactly what you have seen here on this page, welcome to Azure Container instances, and the logo, all this information is actually written, guys, here. So how you can take care of that, how you can actually modify this information. So first of all, I'm going to modify here, welcome to Hirsch Arena YouTube channel as an example. All right. So how you can modify this? So to do that, obviously we have to just remove this SVG, because here it is the link of that particular image. So I'm going to just delete that. And here I'm going to paste my own image, which I have hosted on one of the website. Here, additionally, I'm also giving the size of my image as well. So once you made these changes, everything is done and everything is fine. No worries. So this is the first thing you have to remember. All right. Because this is the practice just to show you how you can update and modify existing web application, or you can say the sample site. Wow, it has been reconnected. So I have to reconnect. And apart from that, what we have to do, we have to double confirm it has been updated. So would you like to save? Yes, I would like to save these changes. So these changes has been saved. Let me double confirm. No. So basically what I have to do, I have to do it again, because it has been saved, right? No, I don't think so. So let me say, oh yeah, it is saved. Sorry guys, actually it shows me the older information. So sorry about that. So index.html has been updated, which you have seen here clearly, right? So next step is just to show you index.javascript. In this JavaScript, basically it mentioned that there's an app is going to use here, and obviously this app will redirect all information to index.html within the app, which you have already modified here in this example. So the next thing is just to keep in your mind the package. And now this is all about the package, or we can say the container package. So right now, whatever the information is right here, it's all good to me. I don't want to make any changes. It looks good because just want to mention that here's an author. You can just update the author name if you want, or you can give your own name. Now it's all up to you. So after made changes, just make sure you click this dot 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 and click save. Once you have done that, just close this directory. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. It has closed actually everything. All right. Let me go back to my PowerShell and the next command after this cloning stuff, because we have made a clone and we modified that clone. Hopefully the changes has been saved. What is going on after click enter here? All right. There you go. So guys, the next command you have to use is this to make sure that it goes to the specific registry. All right. So currently, obviously, I would like to put this into the registry. So right now, guys, I give the name Harsh Arena REGIS, correct? So first of all, I have not created any Azure registry or container registry at the moment, but let me first explain. So it is going to create a new package or container from the image, or you can say the image with the command ACR, which is container resource, registry, and build image. The name of the image is repository. V1 is a tag. You can use any name. Repository is a place where I want to save this image, and the name of the registry is Harsh Arena REGIS, and the file name is Docker file, because obviously it's a container file, right? So what we have to do here, as an example, we go back to the home, and of course we have to find container registries. All right, so just click on container registries, and obviously you do not have any container registry at the moment, so I'm going to create a new container registry in Microsoft Azure in our subscription. So obviously I'm going to choose the same one. You can choose any other resource group, and the registry name should be because we are going to take this as an example, Harsh Arena REGIS. So I give this name all in small. So everything looks good. If it's all good, that means it allows us to create under ECS2. SKU at the moment, guys, I think basic, standard, premium, all are good to us. You can change from standard to premium later on. And once you're ready with that, just click review and create. Because before to run this command, we have to make sure our registry has been created with the name of whatever the name of the registry we would like to give here. So as I mentioned, as in this particular example, I'm going to give the name Harsh Arena REGIS. All right. So once the deployment for the registry has been completed, what we have to do, we have to just run this command, and what it does, it actually basically, just make sure all of these information in the repository has been saved successfully. Let me show you first that where you can find out more information on the registry. So go to the resource. Now, this is the registry or container registry we have created. Obviously, you have some other, integration for security purpose, but right now I'm not going to touch all this information. So always remember, once you run this command ACR, which is Azure Container Registries build, you can find out after run this command something under repository. Right now there's nothing inside this, right? But after that you can find out a repository, our image has been built with the name of repository, and V1 is a version 1 of this particular container. Maybe you would like to modify later on, so it's all up to you how you like to play around with this. So once you're ready with this command, just press enter. Now if everything looks good, it will start actually, unable to find Docker file. So guys, I have to fix this one. Give me only 1 minute, because sometime it works in second time, or in fact, I can do one more thing just to troubleshoot this. Let me restart this. So once we restart the Cloud Shell, I will run this command again and see if that works. So when your session has been timed out, sometime you are not able to find the registry file. So during that situation, if it happened, then you need to make sure that you have just restart this one. And if you still have a problem, don't worry, I will fix it and I will show you, and at least I can guide you how you can fix those issues. So I'm just waiting for this to pop up. And don't worry guys, once you play around with the Azure, you have you can imagine and you can expect lots of different issues. So that is a reason I don't want to cut or pause or delete any of these information during this practice, because I would like to show you what sort of issues you can find out during the practice your stuff. So the first step is let me just double check whether we have any information. Yeah, we have. Let me go to directory. We are in the directory. Let me just try this one. Yeah, looks good. And let me double check whether our code is fine or do we need to make any changes. Yeah, it looks good to me. So right now I'm just going to close this one and close editor. So after that, the next step is obviously we need to type the command. So don't be confused, guys. Here it is showing this all information, which is, yeah, now looks even better. So let me just paste the whole command once again, and I think it should run this time. Wow, the resource within the name Harsh Registry and type Registries could not be found. Why you know that, guys? Because do you see? It actually choose the different my subscription. So that was a reason I actually run those command previously. So let me do it again. Let me run those command once again. So copy and run this command, press enter, because as I said, my storage account for the Azure shell is created into under another subscription, but we have created these all changes into different subscriptions. So that's the reason it won't allow us to run the command. So let me try and try to go back and see if that helps. Now, yeah, it start building up our container, or you can say the image, not a container. I'm sorry. It just start building our image. And once our image is ready, so what we have to do, we have to go back to container registries to double confirm whether the repository v1 is present under repositories. And you need to also understand that you need to copy one of the information from the place as well. So let me show you, don't worry about that. So once it has been created, we need to wait for, yeah, just a couple of seconds. So as I said, like ch1 was successful after 30 seconds. So it took approximate 20 to 30 seconds. And guys, this is the name of the registry. Just remember that. All right. Harsh Arena regis.azure recr.io. And you also need to remember the name of the registry. Sorry, not registry. We keep talking about registry, so I mixed up these things. Repository. So you have to go to the repository and try to refresh the page. You have to see some repository has been saved here. So guys, repository is here. And if I click here, you can find out version 1, right? And in fact, if I go a little bit more in deep here, let me close this shell because we don't need now. We have successfully created our image. So I close this, and here's an information of all these, repository and the registry we have created. Now, just to create a new container from this particular image, you have to make sure you copy this information. Okay. So under docker pull command, you have to just make sure copy Harsh Arena regis.azure recr.io/repository:v1. Why? Because guys, we have actually create this image within Microsoft Azure. So we don't need to copy this command, docker pull. But let's say you are trying to use this repository or this particular custom image into Docker, let's say into this place. And if they allow you to create a private image or try to deploy your private image into the to create a container, then obviously you need to copy the whole command, including docker pull. Just remember that. But right now we are actually using Azure Container registries. You don't need to copy docker pull because it does not require to pull any information from Docker side. We already have this information in registry. So just need to copy this information. So copy that. Now go back to home and obviously go to container instances. And now let's try to create a new container from this custom image. Obviously for the practice, I'm going to choose the same resource group and name of the container. So Harsh Arena Prect, or in fact, let's do one thing. Harsh Arena, just give this name. Yeah, looks good to me. So this is my second image, my custom image. So after that, East US2 is good. But here, this time you don't need to choose quick start images. You need to choose that if you have container registry. So click here and automatically it can show you this information. Now, obviously admin user must first enable for registry in order to access this. Now, it's all about the permission. All right. This is another issue. So if you met this issue, go back to registry. Let me just click OK and go to container registries. Go back here. In the step number 1, we need to try out and find out the information about the access. I mean, this access keys. All right. In access keys, currently admin user is disabled. Just make sure you have enabled this admin user. It's a part of troubleshooting. Once you enable this, it will actually generate some additional information, including the password. All right. Once this has been generated, it means it now allows us to use these registry keys, or at least registry, to deploy our container using the custom image. So I think once it is done, let's go back and let me double confirm whether the admin access has been enabled successfully after going back to the same place. So wait for a while, guys. Yeah, it has been enabled. This is the username and this is the password. All right, now once this has been enabled, let's come back in the home, go to container instances, and let's start creating a new container from the custom image. Choose the same resource group, and obviously the name we are going to use for the container name is same. Now this time let's try to click once again on this Azure Container Registry. So this time it looks good. If you have multiple Azure Container registries, you can find out all information here. The name of the image, obviously the name of the image is repository, and the image name is version 1. So it looks good to me. So after that, obviously you can give a name. I can give a same name, Harsh Arena .es us2 Azure Container.io. Looks good to me. Port number is 80 is fine for the practices. So I just click on review and create. So yeah, I don't want to save any information, guys. So once the validation passed, let me click on create. So another thing is we need to wait for just a couple of seconds and it will automatically deploy this container for us. And once it has been deployed, what does it mean? That you can just check your web application, whether whatever the website you have made these changes, whether like reflection or changes has been successfully updated or not. You can find out this information after the container deployment been finished. So yeah, I mean, just to share with you guys, actually this is a really interesting, and I always very much excited, because you can find out from my explanation throughout this video that how much, I was in a hurry to tell you, hey, you need to know that, you need to know this, and you can deploy this and that. So why I'm so much excited? Because this is something new, something you never heard of before. But Azure Container actually, takes lots of people into the consideration whether they like to go for this solution or not. And believe me, guys, lots of people really like containers because it saves a lot of time, flexible. You can manage your resources pretty quickly. Now, as it has been done, let me just go back to the resource, because I would like to show you first. I'm excited to show you that what sort of information you can find out after deploying this container from the custom image. So to understand this, guys, let me just go back to containers, and here, yeah, this is the all information, so it's fine. Let me go to the property. Here I can find out the IP address. So this is the IP address of this particular thing. Now let me go back. What was IP address? Oh, it's different one. So let me just run first with the IP address. Press enter. There you go. Right, guys, welcome to Harsh Arena YouTube channel. Now this is exactly the changes I have been modified into that specific application from the sample image, and there you go. Of course, you can also double confirm from the specific FQDN whether you are able to access your containers or not. And I think, yeah, I mean, we can do that, obviously. There you go. So that's the beauty of container, and you can see we have done the practice. I do not even pause this video. We have just go through all these details step by step. We also touch base some of the troubleshooting in terms of deploying our containers. So for AZ-900 guys, I think this much you have to understand, you have to know. Basically, you have to know that what containers is and how you actually use them. So just to remind you, container is nothing but a workplace where you can deploy your web application straight based on software virtualization, because in Azure Container Registries, obviously you do not find any more information that what operating system has been deployed by Microsoft, but you can deploy both Windows and Linux containers on Azure Container instances. And I think it is pretty much easy and helpful for you to see how much fast, flexible. You can simply delete them. If you don't like it, you can simply delete this whole stuff and everything is back to normal. So that's how you can actually manage your resources and deploy your resources using Azure Containers. And hopefully you have a better understanding now. So yeah guys, I mean that to be all for today, and I hope and believe you find this video is quite helpful and it makes you a little bit better understanding on Azure Containers. But in case if you have any confusion, feel free to reach me out or put your question into comment. I will try to respond back as soon as possible. So guys, once again, what I would like to share with you one or two important things, not even one. First, that actually I'm leaving China, so I'm trying to wrap up my house, and I've been here for 10 years. So you can imagine that I have actually whole house, lots of things here. So please expect a little bit delay on creating those videos, but I will still my try level best to upload the video as soon as possible. And obviously I need to send my computer straight to India, which will take another 15 to 30 days or even a little bit longer. It depends on the time of this, India and China border, like security border, and you know that there's some issues going on, right? So that's another update. And one last update is I'm going to hold our meeting from next week. So I will share this information about our meeting in Facebook fan page, and of course on Twitter. If you are following me, you can get all those information. If you are not, please make sure you follow those so that you can have all these updates and we can have a conversation hold on the Microsoft Teams. I'm going to use Microsoft Teams for that. So yeah, I mean that to be all for today and for right now. I hope once again you find this video informative. I take your leave for now. Please take care of your health, guys. Coronavirus is still there in India. Please, you have to take care of your health and your family health, and across all over the world, please take care of your family. Enjoy your time. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Peace.